All right, I would like to welcome everyone to the policy meeting. And are there any announcements, Dr. Yanni?
Just one overall announcement, because this is our last policy meeting of the year. We only have second readings tonight. That's why the agenda appears to be shorter than it typically is.
All right, let's take a look. Okay, the minutes from last month. Any comments? Is everyone okay with it moving forward? Yes? Yes? Mark, you're okay with it? Okay, all right. We are moving the minutes forward to the legislative meeting. And that brings us to second readings.
I will introduce the policy, and then we'll ask if there are any questions. And again, Mr. Leckman is here to answer any questions that the committee might have. So our first policy that we're looking at is 616, which is payment of bills. And I believe that we captured all, if not, or most, if not all, of the changes we talked about at the last meeting.
Comments, anyone? You're okay with the changes? Okay.
Can I just add one item, if I can jump in? So I just want to point out that agency accounts, just because we discussed that at the last meeting, I do want to note that agency accounts were struck. So at the last meeting, we talked about it a little bit, and when I went back and talked to Ms. Baldessano, so agency accounts is actually an old description for student activity accounts. So with the new GASB, which is the governmental accounting standard that came out, it changed student activity to fiduciary funds. And the board does not actually approve payments for the student activity accounts or the scholarship account. So rather than keep that in, we just struck that because it did not apply.
Thank you very much. All right. Next policy, 617, petty cash.
Just as a reminder, we're looking at this policy now. This may be a policy that we repeal in the future if we move forward with the procurement card. But while we have the policy here, we want to make sure that it reflects what our practices are. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Leckman.
There's nothing that I have specifically to point out, so this one's pretty straightforward.
Okay, any? Okay. All right, we will move that forward to the legislative, and then building security, policy 709.
Policy 709, I believe that we captured just about everything, but I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Einedy, you had suggested something. I left my notes on my desk.
So on page 2, for video recording devices shall be used to, my suggestion was to add investigate the credibility of threats or deem threats credible as a reason to look at the video footage.
Yes, and I'm really comfortable with that. One of the things we struck, I believe it was in this policy, we struck about monitoring employees, but I think when there is a threat or there's damage or anything like that, I think we're well within our right to use all of our available resources, and that would be looking at footage. So I think that makes complete sense to add there.
Can I comment on that particular point? I mean, the grammar there doesn't seem to work. Video recording devices shall be used to, the superintendent shall promulgate. I'm not sure is it just in the wrong place? Was there some?
Is that intro intended to replace the purposes of such recording devices below?
So full disclosure, when you're working in the board doc site on policy, things move around a lot. I think it's just a simple movement error. So we'll make sure we fix that.
And I have another one. Can I?
Go ahead.
keep going?
Yep.
It's probably the same thing, but it says, there's new text under identification badges, second paragraph says, visitors shall, oh, no, this seems to be different than the last time, then, in my notes. It said visitors, okay. That one's okay now, but do we provide photo ID badges to all visitors? It says, visitors shall display prominently photo identification badges whenever in district buildings. All visitors, even those who weren't in the Raptor system previously? I mean, people who are escorted as,
So you don't need to be in the system to get that badge that prints out. You just need to have your ID scanned or your information placed in, and then that sticker comes out.
and it's, they always have photos on.
They always have photos.
Okay. So on that, I just don't love the grammar. To display prominently photo identificate, to prominently display maybe, might be clearer. And then the only other comment I have, and this is I think I may have mentioned this last time, but under access to school buildings and facilities in both paragraphs, the first one says, determining who will have keys or authorized card entry, and the second one says, who is entitled to building keys or access cards. And that feels a little bit limiting to me. There are other technologies, and maybe that's all we use now, and that's fine, and we just have to change it if we ever use something else. Or we can be more generic either way.
I think we can.
Yeah. That's all I had.
Just a really minor point. In authority, we have the board requires that security procedures be developed. I was wondering if we should add the word and, or the words and maintained at the end. Just to me, developed could be interpreted to be stagnant. So that would just be a suggestion I would throw out.
Haven't said much.
You know, I've always got something. The only thing I had, it was only one, is on page 2, under these regulations shall provide that. So I think I had asked a question the last time about number 1, about why we do that, how we do it, and I think we were going to see, is there maybe a legal reference? So that was my only carryover from last time.
When this goes back into board docs, a legal reference will go there.
Perfect.
For sure.
Okay.
I would also like to point out, we didn't talk about an Oxford comma tonight, but did everyone pick up the split infinitive conversation that just happened a minute ago? And then, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Our last policy is 609. This is technically a second read. We put it here for discussion because at the last committee meeting, there was a lot of discussion. It was a second reading. We were asked to bring it back, so we have it here for discussion and second reading.
Okay. Comments, questions?
Right, last time I suggested that we be stronger around the interest rate swap language, bullet 8, and so that's changed now, and I'm happy with the way it is written out. We also crossed off bullet 10 at my request, and both of those look good to me.
Okay. Any other? No, you're good? Good. Rest of the board, any comments on this or the other policies? Sorry, I didn't know. Looks like we're good on that. We're going to move it forward to the legislative. And with that, we are at public participation. I don't see anyone coming forward because there's no one. So I will close public participation. And the next policy committee meeting will be Wednesday, August 17th at 7 p.m. And then, any further comments?
Within the next 2 or 3 weeks, the board, first I'll work with Mrs. Ionetti, but then the board will get the list of policies that we'll tentatively review. Next year, our policy book is in a really, really good shape. So a lot of next year is going to be just cosmetic, but there are a couple policies that PSBA is recommending, especially, you'll remember we did a drug policy or an alcohol policy several months ago. They've expanded that policy, so there'll be a couple big policies next year, but a lot of it is going to be touch-up work.
Okay, and with that, any further comments? Okay, we are adjourned.